Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about reflections. A vertical reflection, it reflects the graph about the x-axis. So let's say you have a function, let's say it's an absolute value function like this. Then if it's a reflection, it's going to go upside down, so the reflection is going to be like this. Okay? So this would be the reflection. Reflection. Oh, got all kinds of things here going. Let's see, orange. Reflection. Okay, now we know the original f of x, we know what that looks like. That was the absolute value of x, right? Okay, the reflection, when we have a vertical reflection or it reflects about the x-axis, it looks like, so call this g of x. G of x is equal to the opposite of f of x. That gets you a vertical reflection. So basically you're taking all your outputs and you're making them the opposite sign. Okay, so if they were positive, now they're negative. Okay, if they were negative, now they're positive. All right, that is a vertical reflection. Okay, a horizontal reflection, that's going to reflect about, that's the abbreviation for about, the y-axis. Math teachers do a lot of abbreviations. Okay, so let's say we have that is the cubed root function, right? Okay, so say this is f of x, and we're going to reflect it about the y-axis. So it's going to look like, see if I can draw this, kind of like that, okay? That would be g of x. So it's like you flipped it over, but you flipped it over the y-axis, okay? To get that type of reflection, now for our f of x in this case, what we have drawn is it was the cubed root of x, right? All right. So to get it to flip, it's going to be f of the opposite of x, okay? All right. So this is the form for a reflection about the y-axis. You change the sign on your input and then apply the function. So here you apply the function and then make it negative. That's a vertical reflection. Here you change the sign on your input and then you apply the function. Okay? All right. So they say reflect the graph of s of t equals the square root of t. Okay, so let me do just the basic square root function first of all. I'm going to do that in green. So it's a toolkit function. There it is. That would be s of t. Now, to flip it vertically, for a vertical reflection, it's going to reflect about the x-axis. So it's going to look like this. Each of our outputs, like here we had an output of 1, now it becomes negative 1. Here we had an output of 2, now it becomes negative 2. This is part A of vertical reflection, okay? So it's reflecting vertically. All right, now go back to the green one, go back here, and now we want to reflect it horizontally. Okay, so horizontally, it's going to look like, I'm going to have a point over here, and I'm going to have a point over here. It's going to look like that. So that's going to be part B. I don't know if it's drawn great, but... Okay, now, we know the equation for, I want to talk a little bit about the equations. We know the equation for s of t. It's just the square root of t. Like that was our toolkit function. So what does it look like when it's reflected vertically? It looks like, this function doesn't have a name. Let's call it h. H of t. So this is going to be h of t now that we have drawn here. Gave it a name. It's going to be the opposite of the square root of t. Okay? This should be a t-axis. Okay. Then what does it look like if it's horizontally? Well, let's call this then g of x, or g of t. Okay, so g of t, the equation would look like it's the square root of the opposite of t. Now, if you're saying, wait a minute, I can't take the square root of a negative number. Yeah, that's why we had to put in like -4, because then you have, so the g of -4 would be the square root of the net opposite of -4, which would be the square root of 4, which would be 2. That'd be my output. So that's why I'm getting the point -4, 2. And it's right there. Okay? But that's just a little example of what's going on. So the square root function's fun because it's easier to see the reflections.